CW universe is dead officially. And honestly, wherever it lies, there shall it be buried.
Yeah.
Forever and ever. Goodbye.
There will be no Grant Gustin standing on top of the grave.
Gustin standing on top of his own grave at this point.
Not ever.
Welcome to Phantoms and After Dark, everybody. I'm Connor. Eric's here. Arlen's here. He's here.
Hey.
Hunter went to bed, so because the
Yes.
oxygen around his head is very thin, so he had to get some sleep.
He needs more chlorophyll up there.
He needed more.
Yes.
And we're gonna start with a very very brief but sufficient post-mortem on The Flash, because it just ended yesterday, and it ended in probably the worst way I can think of, with just a really 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 bad fucking finale. Lou, you watched the finale, right?
Yeah, I just finished it. I would call it like a puttering fart that ends with a little leaking down the leg.
I don't want anything to be bad for anybody, but this doesn't shock me. Like, this was the trajectory it's been on for years.
My bar was low. My bar was not this low. Hang on, monsters bother me to get out of the room. Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, like it was. Like, I get the idea of a reunion finale of like doing like I'm assuming spoilers, fuck you, like whatever, like bringing all the bads back. You don't do that unless you can make them look good and not make them look the worst they've ever looked in the history of the show.
This was a catastrophic finale to me. This was a fucking train wreck.
It reminded me why I stopped watching.
They did the Cobalt Blue thing, which they've been building for a whopping 3 episodes. Most of the season was filler. They had episodes where Barry wasn't even present, or Barry wouldn't suit up, or both.
He was sitting down with Joe.
I have not seen Joe in 5 episodes.
That's because he became
moving around a lot.
That's because he became a chair.
But they replaced Joe with Cecile, his wife, who suddenly out of nowhere became DC character Virtue.
Wait, I've never even heard that character.
No idea.
I saw.
I've been told she's a thing. I don't know who that is.
I'm going to guess that she's a what's his name that died? Duffy's thing.
Maybe.
Where Static is from.
Yeah,
like an obscure.
So Virtue is Holly Ann Fields from Prime Earth, and
created by Gail Simone.
Thinking of Milestone.
She was created. She was created by Gail Simone. She was in 2013's The Movement.
She's she's a new character.
But Cecile went from being the empath to now she can fucking fly and fight a speedster.
She's Saturn Girl.
Basically, yeah.
Girl? Yes.
Now, one of the big things I noticed, like, all this is happening, is that, like, one of the biggest hits the show has taken is that the supporting cast is a bunch of fucking goobers that no one cares about. And I have empirical data to support this, because I think last season they tried to do an episode that was only about this chick Allegra, who's been around since Crisis, but I don't know anything about her.
She's from a weird alternate Earth, and she has light powers
or something. Yeah, they gave her own episode, and it's the lowest rated episode across the whole series.
Okay.
So that's how little people care about her. But this episode setup was like Eddie Thawne from season 1. Eric, he was a character from season 1 who actually had probably one of the better arcs of the show. He's Eobard's distant direct ancestor, and in order to beat Eobard in season 1, he shoots himself in the chest.
And he was Iris's fiance, and he was a cop, and
it's an earned arc. Like it's one of the better things they've done, because Eobard kidnapped him. He was like, "Hey, from where I'm from, no one knows who you are because you're a nobody idiot cop, and no one cares. But I need to keep you out of this battle because I don't need anything happening to my bloodline." So Eddie shoots himself. He's like, "Who's a nobody now?" And he erases Eobard.
Well, and that doesn't make any sense. Like,
it doesn't
biological standpoint.
No, it doesn't. But I don't care. So he essentially is the one who beat Reverse Flash the first time. Barry was getting his fucking ass kicked. So he is brought back from the dead by the negative Speed Force because reasons. And given the Cobalt Blue alias. And then he brings back Savitar, Zoom, Godspeed, and Eobard in his big, awful looking banana suit. And basically says, I'm here to erase, Barry Allen's legacy, kill all of his loved ones, and kill him, blah, blah, blah. And all these villains get maybe 90 seconds of screen time.
Generous with some of them. I would say Savitar gets 30 seconds, and that's because the suit is practical and looks like you would order it for your kid's birthday party.
It looks real bad. Zoom's costume was clearly recreated at the last second because I didn't get his mask back. Yes. Godspeed's suit has always looked bad. And yeah, Eobard's got
except
really
in the group shot, it looks the best.
It does.
And I noticed too, that yellow suit that Eobard's wearing, the codpiece is so like the angles, like it's like a weird.
I don't know. That makes him look like, remember those rubber figures you would get that that were like you get them at a dollar store. They were like basically like my mom didn't want to get me a real action figure, so she got me this thing that's just basically rubber and metal. It looks like
that wire inside.
Yes, it looks like it has those kind of proportions where he's just kind of like he's just long and doesn't really have any articulation points. He's just this weird gangly looking dude. It makes Tom look really fucking bad. But yeah,
in one of the previous episodes, they have the old costumes,
and it looks so much fucking better.
Yeah. Especially when they do a shot that calls back to something from like season 2 or 3, whatever Flashpoint was.
Yeah.
Of like now we're seeing the other way. It's like, God, that first Flash costume did look really good.
It does look really good.
It looks. I like the helmet. The cowl looks so much better. I get that it sucked for Grant, but like,
yeah, he couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
But no, your episode, you're talking about the episode with Eobard, the one that ties up the entire series essentially, and that honestly could have worked as a better finale than this fucking thing did because that was a good episode. This is trash. All these villains show up and they get taken out by Nora, Allegra, Cecile, and Chilblain.
What?
Wait, who?
I'm sorry, Keone, who is Caitlin Snow. But not Caitlin Snow, because Caitlin Snow died off-screen in some kind of weird scientific experiment replaced by the same actress, Daniel Panabaker, but some weird nature goddess named Keone.
Gaia now, kind of?
Yeah, and then she just dips out at the end of the episode and brings back Caitlin for no reason.
So, wow.
Here's the thing, and I haven't really watched... the past few seasons after we all kind of quit.
Right.
So I was like, who the fuck is Keone? And had to do a Google search.
Yeah, they said oh, where's Keone? He's like, oh, she's getting donuts. And I was like, who the fuck are they talking about?
So I didn't watch any of this stuff because no. But it is giving me weird. It's giving me weird side. I guess not flashbacks because this is 2 years ago now, but. As the supernatural person among the group, this is giving me hard watching the finale of Supernatural feelings. And being like, who the fuck is that person? Oh, and who's this person? What the fuck? Super hell? And I'm just like, CW shows should not be allowed to go on past 5 seasons.
If you go to the Flash, the Flash Instagram page is every comment is Eric Wallace should never touch a TV show again in his life. Fuck Eric Wallace. Eric Wallace is the worst owner to ever have a show.
Here's my compromise to save it. You bring back the dude who was super fucking creepy, and you just hire an office full of prostitutes. And none of them are actually
Andrew Kreisberg was the guy keeping this show afloat, despite the fact that he was a sex pest. There's empirical data to prove this now.
We've talked about it in the past, but it's so evident that he was the guy that had that.
Very apparent that there was people that involved in this that knew what they were doing, who could craft a decent show to watch, a decent to good show to watch, and then they just got a bunch of idiots.
And maybe they're going to get an unwarranted touch of a boob.
Also, my understanding, and I have no idea if this is true, is the other guy, Guggenheim, he left also. Like he doesn't have an active hand in any of this stuff.
And he left because he was more being like the Feige of these shows.
Yeah.
Like if anything, he maybe has a hand in Stargirl and is it Clark and Lois or Superman and Lois? I don't remember.
Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois. Like I would assume that's what it is. Like he's paying attention to what was supposed to be the new universe and none of this other stuff. And I think it's
because Superman and Lois has set itself officially, canonically, as not part of the CW universe. It's a different universe together.
Yeah, it's one of their multiverses.
Let's be honest. Like even if the Sex Pest and their Feige had stayed on, it still would have gotten burned like trash because they are stepping away from anything that was connected to the prior DCU or the whatever they're calling it now.
I think that's part of the problem is that like they just because this was a 13 episode season, not a 24 episode season. This was a bailout. They were getting the shit out of the way.
I mean, this is my conclusion to this is just like sci-fi fantasy stuff. As much as I love it, I just don't think it should have this much time. I don't think that they should spend this long on any.
No, and like, the thing is, like Arrow ended 9 seasons too, didn't it?
7.
No, I think it did go to 8 or 9.
Did it go to 8 or 9?
Yeah. And that last season is fine. I like the last season of Arrow. I think the last season
was super shortened, and it tied directly into Crisis, though. And it was like
Crisis was the real finale of Arrow.
They should have just stopped all of these after Crisis, which I've been saying for years. But I'm like hearing your guys' reaction and the world's reaction at large. Yeah, they should have just stopped at Crisis.
Yeah, and all these villains get just one-shotted. Nora Allen takes out Savitar with a single shot.
Which I like. There was a way better way to even bring Savitar back because Savitar is like what evil.
He's Evil Barry.
Evil speak.
Evil
why
Barry.
Not just have him do it. Why put him in the suit? It'd be cooler to see Nora have to kill her dad.
Yeah. Godspeed gets taken out by Cecile, who just empaths him to death. They don't even show what she's doing. At some point, she is just slapping the air, and these guys are because he has a duplicate.
It's like bad telekinesis TV special effects.
Keone takes out Zoom.
Real quick with Cecile, maybe her power isn't empath. Maybe she places babies inside of people. So maybe what happened is she
made all the Godspeed clones pregnant.
And because they're not built to hold babies, it just ruptured them.
They're like,
exactly. Oh,
and they were in Texas. They were in Texas also, so they couldn't do anything about it.
Keone one-shot Zoom, and they had a good chance to do something with Zoom because the first thing Zoom faces off against is the CCPD. Eric in season 2, they make it a point to say that Zoom kills so many cops that like they're like, dude, we're gonna fucking kill this guy. He made it a hobby to kill cops left and right in that season and was terrorizing people.
He's not all bad then.
Right. Oh yeah, yes.
But also like these villains. These villains were like Zoom and Savitar took a whole season to beat, and they beat the living piss out of Barry. And now they're getting one-shotted by people who aren't even speedsters. They're being one-shotted by people who shouldn't be able to think as fast as they do.
Eobard one is the worst one.
Eobard gets taken out by fucking Allegra.
Speaking of thinking, I can't help but notice who was left out of this little party. Thinker is nowhere to be seen.
Actually, if they would have brought back the Rival, I would have gave them some credit.
The Rival would be hilarious, but if they brought back the actor of the Thinker,
I would have loved to see the Rival again.
It was a whole thing about speedsters, though, so I get not bringing back like
Yeah, and that's the thing. So none of them have their traditional lightning colors. They all have red lightning now because negative
speed force. Yeah.
Okay.
So here,
they saved a couple of bucks in After Effects.
This leads to many problems that have persisted throughout the show from the very beginning. I'll give you a season 2 onward. They've never been good at speedster villains, not once.
No,
they've always messed them up outside of the first 2 seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah, like they've always messed it up. And every other villain they've done has been like wishy-washy at best. Cicada's probably like the best of them.
He's the third best villain probably in the series.
So it's like, if you're gonna bring back these characters who you already kind of did a bad job with, and you're not gonna do better, why are you doing this?
That's my thing. It was
because they can do it better.
It was
yeah. Yep.
And I think the most flagrant one that they could have actually used as a legit good villain was Godspeed, because he's a newer character, and they just, I don't know, like for whatever reason they.
Oh, hold on, we're leaving out Red Death from the beginning of this fucking season 2.
Oh, I didn't even watch Red Death.
That was a fucking disaster.
I just saw clips of it, and like,
I think they just spray painted like Avatar costume.
No, it looks like a Power Ranger costume, but like it's Batwoman, and I can't remember her name, Javika, something like that. She can't act. And they give her like she can't. Period. Full on, she can't act. She's terrible.
Sure.
And they give her these like full on villain speeches, and at one point she says, "I am vengeance," and I just laughed.
Yeah, I saw the clip of that. I was like, okay,
yeah, it's
this
awful.
is fake. It
doesn't make any sense.
She
doesn't know. She doesn't even know Barry in her original timeline. She doesn't even know like the rest of these characters, but yet comes to this one for reasons because they want to do Red Death. It's the same thing with Godspeed. They just want to do Godspeed and did it wrong. Like,
they want to. They want
it wrong. It dumb. Like, which makes
they want to do it because people be like, "Oh, they did a great job on the costume," and then people watch it, and then it's terrible.
Yeah.
Godspeed still looks ridiculous. His little circular eye holes that make him look like a fucking Halloween store costume.
Yeah.
But basically, so all the evil speeches get taken out and it's left with just Eddie Thawne and Barry. And Eddie's motivation is kind of justified because Barry did jump in his fucking grave. And then it just ends with like Eddie punching Barry around his apartment, and then Barry goes, "But love," and Eddie goes, "All right," and they shake hands. And that's it. And the fight is over.
Great.
He is wearing the closest thing that we'll ever get to Disco Nightwing.
Now, Connor, I do want to point out that if you had sat through the credits of this final episode of Flash, you would have gotten to the end of Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2 and seen that this was all a vision by Alice.
It was. And then it finally wraps up with Iris giving birth to Bart and Nora, and then the final like scene is Barry doing one more run down the fucking Ferris Air. Yeah, he's doing the run that he
never paid off from season 1.
Never paid off, and also it looks like it was CGI, all of it. And he gives Lightning.
All of this is basically.
He gives his he shares his Speed Force powers with Jesse Chambers, Avery Hope, and Max Mercury, and that's how it basically.
Max Mercury
with a wanky ass speech with like maybe this power can be shared to make a better world for all of us to live in or something. I'm the Flash, and
we need more speedsters.
Yeah, we need more speedsters. This is my solution to this problem.
Because as we're doing this, as someone who like. I'm gonna say the show, Smallville, and that was the precursor to all this stuff. And it's like these two, like Flash, I think is historically, in my opinion, a worse high to low than Smallville. Like Smallville,
I've said before, Flash is a worse high to low than Game of Thrones. Okay,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, at least comparing, like, kind of apples to apples, it's like, when Smallville got bad, it brought in, like, all the goofy team characters, but, like, not as bad, and it did concentrate much more on, like, the struggle, but I think me and Eric were talking beforehand, like, there is a problem with doing long form with a character who's so OP, like, baseline.
Yeah.
And they never figure that out. Like midway through season 2, you saw the struggles, and then season 3, they never figured it out.
I would add that any superhero show has problems displaying people's powers, especially when they make it the main focus of the show. And the Flash should do something like that, but not for 22 episodes a season, and not for the quality of writing that they had.
Yeah, and like the Instagram page put a thing today, hyping up that scene where the villains get taken out by all these like D-listers, and it says Flash needs his team, and people in the comments are like, "No, he doesn't. He's the Flash."
Yeah,
he literally. It's like the team thing only exists in the show, and also it's like,
it's a product of like the nature of television production, which I understand. Like they have to keep on adding people to make it feasible, but like it dilutes a lot of it, and they're not able to give these characters enough interesting things to do, which this is a comment I'm making about from when I was still watching these shows, and it just sounds like that continues.
Yeah, and like Cisco was the last interesting one, and they didn't even bring him back for this.
He probably didn't want to come back.
He didn't want to.
Oh, I'm sure he didn't. And the funny thing is, they gave him a send-off and then brought him back 2 episodes later when they did give him a send-off.
Yeah.
They gave him a sitcom level send-off. Like it was a montage with like clips from that season, sappy music, and then he walked out of the set, and then 2 episodes later he came right back.
Yep.
I mean, he's doing well at least. I mean, he's like the lead of a Hulu show now or something.
Yeah,
so, like,
exactly. Yeah, I saw him. I was like, look at him, no hair, getting good starring roles. But yeah, this show is dead, and I hope it stays buried. It was buried. It was like I said, an absolute fucking catastrophic way to end this show. I thought they would end at least on like unsatisfying to decent, but no, it was just a regular ass episode bogged down by a bunch of bad villain appearances and then a limp dick ending. Fuck this show.
You could have learned to that like 6 seasons ago with Hunter and I.
Yeah.
And there's like they could have done a better villain. Like they could have had, like, to go back to the 90s show, which I don't know how many of you actually watched. I only watched it when I was a kid.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, their ending was like, oh, it's another Barry. And like they could have done something with like a future Barry being like, stop sucking. Like, I'm going to beat you into the hero you need to be, kind of thing would have been more interesting. And to go to like, I just want to talk about the Oliver episode, because besides the fact that watching Stephen Amell on the screen was fun again, holy shit, he's so much better actor than any fucking other person on that show besides Grant.
Like, that episode does feel good because he's elevating all this crap material and they're fighting a really bad villain in Bloodwork. Which I can't believe they brought Oliver back to fight Bloodwork.
Although I did like they do a bit that is such a kind of good meta commentary where he's like, oh, you're the star of the show, they can't kill you. I was like, oh, this is something they could have done like season 4 that would have been interesting, not in season 9, and like done a thing. Because the only way this show really would have worked is if they like, and it sucks for the actor, but like if they killed Barry in one of the crises.
Grant suggested
probably.
And then
probably
move the show on to Wally. Like
Grant suggested that the show end with him doing him sacrificing himself somehow to become the lightning bolt that strikes him in season 1.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
It's a way better ending.
Yeah, and they're like, and Eric Wallace was like, and I guess Eric Wallace was like, no, Oliver already killed himself, so you shouldn't have to.
But again, no, they should have just all left. Like again, we've had this conversation before. Yeah, Melissa should have left during Crisis as well. They all should have left and handed the reins on to new people. And I mean, it still wouldn't have mattered because Uncle Zaz came in and like detonated everything. So
she did that a little bit more because like she had like a final season and then Superman and Lois came out.
Right.
Like,
well, so this is to my point. I think that they were all like, you can't leave all at once. I think that there was like some contract thing where it's like, no, you have to leave. I think there was like
I'm sure they had them on the contract like, you can't do other stuff until you finish this out.
Yeah.
Like, we will hold you up.
Exactly. So it's like I mean,
Melissa,
you get to go next because you have a baby.
The one actor I worry about the most, even though I don't really like her, is Candace Patton, because like I think she has zero future after the show.
Oh, absolutely. And she did get done dirty, but like anytime they tried to like in their terrible ways they tried to elevate Iris, never helped her.
No.
And she just came out always looking bad, which is why everyone online hates the character because they never made her likable.
No, I think Eric, I think your wife described her the best. She called Candace a nag, I think was the word you used.
Yeah, I think that is what my wife said. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, she's a nag, and she brings everyone down. And like, there was that one season, I think it was season 4. She just starts yelling at everybody. It's like, who the fuck are you? Like,
it's the Savitar season, where she becomes team lead. It's like, well, we were doing with all this stuff without you, Barry. It's
right.
Like, but I'm the Flash. No, we're the Flash. Okay, sit down.
Okay. Sit on, Iris. Go fight you apart.
You're my lightning rod.
I do think we can close that out, but I do want to say, like, it's so bad on her end that when I watched a movie from before she even joined the Flash, the moment she came on screen, I was like, ew, I hate you. I want you to die immediately. And like, that's not what you want if you're an actress.
I still think it's one more joke at her expense. I still think it's funny that like that was that one episode she got kidnapped by the Samuroid, and she's like, no, I'll just put my faith that Barry will just snap out of it and the power of love will come save me. And the Samuroid jumps into like a big giant like fucking turbine or something, like a windmill. And I'm like, that's a big gamble to maybe get turned into red dust. Like, maybe Barry will snap out of stupor. Oh no!
Like, I couldn't even describe the thing that you're talking about.
I know I watched that, and I don't remember it at all.
It's when Barry comes out of Speed Force, and he's all discombobulated, and she's like, in order to get him out of it, she just lets herself get kidnapped by the Samuroid, which is working for the Thinker, and the Samuroid just runs into the air and is going to jump into a windmill, like a giant fucking industrial windmill, just chop them both up, and she's like, any second now, Barry will come save me. Any minute now. I'm like, what if he doesn't?
I miss the Thinker now. That's what that's my conclusion.
All of those words you just said make me so angry because I wasted so much goddamn time on these shows. Yeah. Oh god, hearing Samuroid made me want to pull my skin off.
All right, we can transition to
something else. Like, this is the official dirt pouring ceremony.
Yes,
no.
Wherever the Flash lies, there shall it be buried. I'm done.
Yes.
I'm glad it's
Rest
fucking
in piss, you won't be missed.
Rest in piss, you awful TV show.
Yes. Bye. So, anybody else have other things they want to talk about?
I mean, I want to talk about that My House thing, but I'll let somebody else go first before I get into that.
I recently watched Pearl because it finally showed up on Showtime/Paramount, and at first I wasn't sure if I was going to dig what they were doing because that opening act is very much like, hey, you're in a musical, you are in a stage production, and then it calmed the fuck down a little bit, but yeah, I fucking love that. Like, that was so great. The last like 3 or 4 minutes of Mia Goth staring at the camera was horrific and amazing at the same time. But Ty West is 2 for 2 with these movies for me right now. I hope he doesn't fuck up Maxine.
Because you liked X, right? Remind me.
Yeah, I loved X.
I was like,
but I need to get to him, and I need to get to Infinity
you
Pool
should.
as well.
Watch them in close succession. I think that I didn't like X as much first time around. After watching Pearl, I think X is even better. I think the two of them, the combination of them, it's a complete story. And I love what Mia Goth does with the character. She feels like a complete character.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to see where Maxine goes. Because there's there's interesting stuff that they were playing with. And like, the reason I think Pearl sort of pulls X up for me is because I can tell Mia Goth's like influence on the story is so much bigger, and I think I think she kind of like fills in things that I've never liked about Ty West, specifically with horror stuff. And I think the fact that it's not so exactly a horror story, it's like a broader drama with like
horror elements,
larger, and that's the stuff from him that I've liked more. Like, I liked his Ethan Hawke Western movie that he did far more than any of his horror movies.
Which one is that? I did not know about that.
Is it in the Valley of Violence? I want to say
Okay.
it's Ethan Hawke and Travolta, and it's
Oh, no.
Travolta. He's doing his best. He's holding up, because it's like it's very much like a Gene Hackman in Unforgiven role.
Okay.
Like it's very much like he's an antagonist who you're kind of like, oh, I can see his point. I understand his perspective. So you're not like so fully rooting for him to die. You want his death to be like honorable in a sense, but you're also like, if you die, I'm not going to be entirely upset. And Ethan Hawke is just like, it's like Western John Wick. He's just like the fucking.
That's what Ethan Hawke does really well now. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's a very good performance. Ty West directs the shit out of it. It feels like kind of an amalgamation of different eras of Westerns. The opening is very like spaghetti in a very fun way. So yeah, check it out.
Back to Pearl though. I think something that really benefited Pearl, unless I'm mistaken, is that it was definitely filmed during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that actually benefited it quite a bit, having such a small cast and having it rely a lot on Mia Goth's performance.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I don't know. Connor, you should definitely.
It worked really well with the time period too that it's set in. Like it all, it's just
Connor, you could watch these in either order and it would work, but I would say watch X first and then Pearl.
Yeah, and like I have honestly like the Mia Goth train, like I have not gotten on it yet because I haven't seen her in anything really. So and I wanted to check out that in Infinity Pool. I think is the other one she's in, right?
She's in that. Yeah,
you should older. Road to what is it? The Road to Wellville, or is that a different movie? Is that the one about Kellogg? I can't remember the movie that she was in about the eels. Cure for Wellness.
Cure for Wellness, and then she's also in another. She's in a movie I watched recently, Marrowbone, which is from like 2017. She's been in a bunch of stuff in supporting roles, and she's always been good. But like this is her year because she's just killing it.
Well, Connor, did you say you've seen Cure for Wellness?
No, she was in it. I know Dane DeHaan's in it, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah,
no, it's very long.
Yeah, I've heard everyone because I saw Ryan Hollinger cover it, and I've seen other people talk about it. Like I've heard it's the thing I've heard is like not what you think it is, but it might be worth your time.
It's like a modern Hammer movie. That's what I would call it. That's the best way I can. Put it.
That's Gore Verbinski, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I've heard some people say like this is some of his ideas for BioShock that he didn't get to use, and
I can see it.
I don't disagree with that. But yeah, that's an odd fucking movie. It's worth seeing at least once. But yeah, it's some things.
I'll check them out.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, other than Bupkis, which is fucking phenomenal. Everybody
didn't get to talk about on this show, and it's in the horror related thing, is that fucking Children of the Corn remake.
Oh God.
What the
one they put on Shudder and immediately took off.
They did?
I think they did. It was officially released, and when I'm trying to find it, I can't, and I'm like looking for articles about where is it, and there's nothing.
Awful. Like I know I'm just two for two in far as terms of bad things in the show that I've watched, but like I was watching it like waiting for something to like, jump out at me like. When is this going to be a Children of the Corn movie? And it never becomes one. It's just about a girl who takes out like some girl was like the survivor. Okay, let me break down this plot summation for you. Okay, all right. This movie gets started with a kid. Like it's a little girl. I can't remember her name. Her brother goes inside of an orphanage or like a children's school and starts murdering all the adults for no reason whatsoever. They don't tell you why. The police's response to this is to fill the building with gas.
Yes.
in order
It's the
to
only way to be
subdue
sure.
the assailant, and they kill all the children.
See, that's so
Yeah.
inaccurate. They would just wait outside for like 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they kill the assailant and all the children inside. So like this girl swears revenge or something. And also there's a whole sequence about how corn ruined this town. I'm not kidding. And this
Metaphor for the
girl,
country, perhaps.
maybe or something. Like, also, like, before this guy goes into the orphanage, he looks at his sister and goes like, he just says out of nowhere, he goes, "Don't worry, nothing in the corn ever stays dead," and just walks inside and starts killing the adults.
Okay.
And then like, they're already doing a monster tease within like the first 30 minutes of this movie, even though there's been no supernatural elements whatsoever. And like, we just go bam. This girl has an army of children all wielding chainsaws, and they've taken over the town. They don't show you they take over. They don't show you any fights. They don't show you any police resistance. They don't show you anything. It's just the adults have already surrendered to this army of chainsaw wielding kids. And then it's just like an hour of just atrocities. They bury the children. They bury the adults alive. They're hanging people. They're setting people on fire. And then like there's some reporter who's gonna come talk about the corn or something. And then that's when we see He Who Walks. Not He Who Walks Behind the Rose, but He Who Walks. Who's just a big fucking leaf man, as I've already shown in the fucking chat. He's a big corn stalk. He's Groot. Man. He's Groot made of corn.
Yeah.
It looks terrible. And the movie just ends with some girl lighting the corn on fire, and this other little girl, the main character, the villain, just runs into the corn to get burned alive. But it actually ends with this main character girl like walking through the corn, and this little girl's charred corpse pops out of the ground and goes, "Nothing in the corn ever really stays dead," blah, and then just kills her, and that's it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
It was fucking abysmal, and I can't believe that it was made by the same guy who made Equilibrium.
No, that's the only unsurprising part of this. That's the part where I'm like,
that tracks.
The outlier of his movies.
Yeah.
Well, and then he made a bunch of stuff like the Thomas Crown Affair. He made the Point Break remake.
Well, that's the thing. When you're like a writer for hire, you're going to be a part of great things and terrible things in equal succession. It's just how it works.
He also made Ultraviolet.
Yep, he did.
I saw that movie in theaters, and I can't remember a thing about it.
Oh, I was angry after I saw it.
Yeah, the bad guy is a vampire at the end.
All vampires, right?
I wouldn't know. I only watched it once.
I think it's because it's like they're looking for a cure for the vampire thingamajig, but like they're techno vampires or something, like future vampires. And there's like a kid in a or something.
Yeah, they're like vampires have like superpowers,
and they're like, and William Fichtner is in it again because he's just been bamboozled for the second time by the fucking director.
Instead of watching that movie, I'd rather just watch Dawnbreakers.
Yeah, I love Dawnbreakers.
Yes, it's a good vampire film that I don't think enough people watch, and it's amazing to watch fucking Willem Dafoe do whatever the fuck he's doing.
Like, that's another. What's his name? Is the lead in that movie too?
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Ethan Hawke. Yeah, that movie's awesome.
He has the funniest scream in that movie when the weird like homeless vampire that's got the wings like gets into their house with his brother, and like every time he goes to approach it, it hits him and he goes every time.
Also, Connor, just like to say, I'm looking at his IMDb. Children of the Corn, literally the movie before that was Point Break, and there's a 5-year gap.
I know.
That was his out of movie jail movie.
Good job, dude. He did a bad Children of the Corn, PD.
Yeah. He did Salt, the Total Recall remake, and Point Break back to back.
Yeah.
That's a bad string of luck there, my man.
I never saw Salt. I didn't know it was good or bad.
I've only heard bad things.
A Jamie Foxx Gerard Butler movie I've never heard of.
Law-Abiding
Citizen.
I have heard of that.
I've heard about this one. I've never seen it.
Movie. It's not bad. It's mostly because Gerard Butler is like eating scenery and Jamie Lee Foxx is like fun to watch, but like, yeah, it's kind of like a Saw movie, but instead of like saw traps, he's like, I've rigged a rocket launcher to blow up your limo at a funeral or something. He
definitely started high because he wrote the screenplay for Thomas Crown Affair, but he wrote and directed Equilibrium.
And actually, real quick, just to touch on Gerard Butler, my wife and I plan on rewatching Greenland this weekend, just because A, I like apocalypse movies, and B, I think there's a sequel to that coming out. I'd heard
there's a sequel coming out. Yeah, that's happening.
Poor Jerry Butler. How did he get here?
I kind of just like watching Gerard Butler at this point because it's just like, oh, he's the bartender who works down the street. Why is he in this movie? Like he's that guy now.
He's Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Except he has filled that niche of
he definitely is the closest we have.
Too good looking for normal guy, but is Hollywood normal guy look.
Well, that and I'd like to track. No, that 100% makes sense, Lou. I'd also like to see the exact point when he stopped caring about staying in his 300 shape, because there is a point where he's like, they're trying to make him a leading man. Oh, he's puffy now.
I'll tell you. It is, I think, law-abiding citizen.
Okay.
So before that, he does
he's
Gamer,
great
which
in Rock and Rolla. He's fantastic in Rock and Rolla.
Yeah, he does Rock and Rolla, The Ugly Truth, which is his first rom-com, and then Gamer, which he's in. I think he's in Shirtless a lot, which is that weird movie, and then he's in Law-Abiding Citizen, and then he goes on his voice acting rom-com kind of run.
Ugly Truth is also abysmal.
Yeah, then he does The Bounty Hunter, and then he does like all that How to Train Your Dragon shit. He doesn't actually have to be in front of the camera.
Then
he's what's his face? Dad.
Yeah, he's the dad.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, when did he start doing the Olympus Has Fallen and all those other
2013.
So God. Okay. That's relatively recently. Okay.
Yeah. All of this leading to his classic performance in Den of Thieves, the second or the best Heat ripoff, as far as I'm concerned. I
heard it called Heat for Bros.
It's literally just Heat, but like modern actors. It's just, that's all it is. Like, to such a degree that they had to like come up with things to differentiate it. But like, it's almost the exact same movie. Gerard Butler is just as unhinged. The biggest difference is like he doesn't have a De Niro to go up against. They really were like, let's just fill out the whole crew with like people who can't even go toe to toe with Gerard. So it just becomes Gerard Butler's movie. And that's the film in which he eats a donut that was held by a man who was shot earlier that morning.
Hey, Connor, what was that real quick? Sorry, Arlen.
Isn't my boy Sam in that too?
Sam, no, I don't think he is.
It's 50 Cent, O'Shea Jackson Jr.
I don't even remember 50 Cent in it, but he's in it.
Pablo Schreiber, and then I don't know anybody else.
Yes, and Pablo Schreiber is the unfortunate person who took the role of John 113, whatever Halo guy's name is.
He's Pornstache. He was also the leprechaun in American Gods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't connect. I'm like, this face looks familiar. And I'm looking way down the cast list is the guy from Connor's favorite movie, Mortal Kombat.
Yes, Louis Tan is in here.
Cole Young, he's a background. He's like it's like Bodyguard 2 or something.
Poor Louis Tan. I like Louis Tan. He's got some shit movies.
I'm sorry. I dissed him. He's Secret Service lobby guard number 1.
Yes.
That's a step up.
He's pretty good in Power Rangers. I have not finished that movie, but I like him in that. I like him in Mortal Kombat, but Cole is a terrible character. So
Louis Tan was great in Iron Fist, the role that he almost got the lead of, but for reasons he was not given the lead.
Because he wasn't on a giant TV show.
Sure.
Yeah, or Hollywood's racist, or both.
I think it's one of those. I think it's the fact that Ike Perlmutter, our favorite person, was involved.
And Scott
I do have a segue from that off to what I was watching before, because Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat is the very downtrodden dad in American Born Chinese.
Mm.
It's new on Disney Plus. I think it dropped this week. I only watched the first episode. Only the adults are big names. So he's the lead's dad. Daniel Wu, who is only the big thing, he's the lead of Into the Badlands, which I think is like an A&E show.
Oh, yeah.
It was AMC.
AMC, okay.
This is the second invocation. It's from the writers of Smallville.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yes, absolutely. Those guys who are now the showrunners of Wednesday. Funnily enough, but I know him from, if it's the actor I'm thinking of, he was very good in that, despite the show being kind of hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah, he's in like full Monkey King. It looks like they borrowed the costume from the Danny Yen Monkey King. In like not a bad way. Like it's a little,
might be intentional.
Yeah, it's a little less like big, but yeah, it's definitely the same style. It's definitely very wire fu, that 90s Hong Kong like influence. But like it looks very similar to like the modern like kind of China fantasy movies that we get. But Michelle Yeoh is another she's Guan Yin, who's like another mystical character. Oscar Award winner. The other Oscar Award winner, I totally forgot when we were talking pre-show. Kei Kwan's character, I honestly would watch this show just to see what they're going to do with it. He is playing a character who in the 80s and 90s was in a sitcom as like the weird Asian neighbor that they keep cutting to, that is now retrending and like coming back in the world, that people are checking it out, and it's so brutally racist. And the main character is Chinese. It's like what, like American born Chinese, as the thing says, but like that's the character that Kei Kwan plays in the show. He's kind of like Asian Urkel in this, like, and they like will cut the clips and memes and stuff, and it's like, that's where the show like was kind of hooking me. I was like, oh, this is like really kind of taking a much more adult serious tone when it comes to the racial stuff about like with Asian Americans specifically, and like East Asian people and how they're treated like in media inside of this like not Disney Channel show, but like it's definitely for a teenager. You know, also very intense like real life high school drama of modern day, where like something happens and someone catches it on their phone and then it kind of becomes trending, which ties back into the Kei Kwan thing, because that becomes like the meme. They're like comparing him to that character.
Interesting, because like his character in Everything Everywhere All Once is like a subversion of like that trope from like the 80s and 90s,
which is kind of what Shin Han is playing, the guy that's Shang Tsung. He's like the dad that's like, oh, they came here from China, and the mom's like, you need to push your business. He's like, you don't understand. Like, are you trying to get me fired? Like, I have to play this role to maintain my job, kind of a thing. And it's just like lots of cool, interesting stuff. I know I'm talking to three white guys, but like,
well, it's not even that. Like, this all sounds really interesting, but I don't have patience for stuff.
It's not. We're not the demo.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it has more, it affects you a little bit more because, I mean, you're dealing with kids that would be watching this. So it makes sense that you would check it out.
Yeah. And it's always like, and they kind of touch on the fact like, oh, there's a Chinese exchange student, and they kind of shove him with this kid's like, I barely speak Chinese, and like kind of dealing with the parents eating like the hyper ethnic food, listening to like their country's music, and like, we not do that when you drop me off? Can we be less Chinese? Like, and him trying to deal with that.
This wasn't one of the first places I actually heard anybody talk about it, because I haven't seen a fucking ad for the show. I haven't seen a trailer. I haven't seen a TV spot.
I think that more has to do with what you're watching, because apparently they were like on every like daytime thing, like this past week.
That doesn't surprise me though. I mean, we don't know, or maybe Disney has talked about this and I just didn't notice. Like they didn't talk about Turning Red's numbers. I don't think they just put it out there, and I'm assuming Turning Red did really well because it dealt.
It was great.
I love that movie.
That movie was phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic movie if anybody hasn't seen it. But and it's more superhero adjacent than I ever would have thought. But it has like some of those same vibes. It does a lot of the same things.
It's got kaiju battles at the end.
Yeah,
kaiju battles
absolutely.
Inside of a movie of like adolescence and
having a period,
child set like diverging, like parent wanting the child to be one thing and the child wanting independence.
Right. Yeah,
and it's also a barely subtle allegory for a period.
You know,
it's in the title. Yeah, it's in the title of the movie. It's like, not subtle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it's so not subtle that it's hilarious. But like,
and it makes certain politicians trying to come at Disney seem even more ridiculous to me because it's like, what made you think that this was a good idea,
Ron?
I would like Connor. I'm sorry. What did you say? You're really quiet again, man.
I said, put Ron.
Oh
yeah. It's fucking real quick about him. I love the fact that his attempted way to be different and his announcement was a terrible fuck up on Twitter, and I love the fact that because of that he's going to fuck up his potential, and then the Disney thing is going to make it even worse for him.
Yeah,
I'm still. Go ahead, Arlen. Go ahead.
I was gonna say him and Elon deserve each other as Elon, Mr. Free Speech Warrior, gives a platform to a man who is all about censorship and free speech.
Banning books and everything. Yeah.
He's also kicking everybody off of his platform and all that bullshit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the two hopes I have are he's going to be so embarrassed he won't run, or he and Trump are going to cannibalize each other's numbers and it won't matter.
Here's my bold prediction about his run, and this is not endorsement of the other guy. Trump is going to eat him alive because Trump is way better at this whole big talking thing, and Ron DeSantis has no confidence when he speaks and is going to get trounced by everybody else.
Well, he's a little wiener douche, and I don't even think he's going to get there. His numbers aren't even like there's to go like into like whereas we're going to the like politics like. Trump's numbers are so good that he has no reason to debate any of these fools.
Yeah,
which is terrifying in its own right.
It is all very early, and who knows what could happen.
I mean, if Trump goes to jail, that's it.
I think one of the podcasts this dude said that like, the way timing works out, like one of the cases might happen like right before like the Republican convention. So it's coming November. So it literally could be like a couple days after or a couple days before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
where the timing lines up, which is
and then Brian Kemp could be like, fuck it, I'm in. And because he was anti-Trump when it came to the actual election and he's kind of like sided with the other party, he's seen as like a moderate or like a guy that Democrats can trust or whatever. And like,
he's a hero because he did his fucking job one time.
Right. Because he held to his principles once. He's not the worst.
He also endorsed for Walker. So
yeah, exactly. Anyway, we don't have to. We don't have to continue on this too long, but it's just. Anyway, Lou, continue on this, or did you have?
It is a interesting move for Disney to make to kind of stick on that part, but like it makes sense. You're doing something to obviously that's very pro China mythology, which is something they love. And it's a good sell for that. But they're also using a book. I looked it up. It's from 06. And I don't know. I actually didn't look. Like if the writer has like what his connections are, like
it does bring a question up for me. Is I wonder if because I know, unless I'm mistaken, Disney Plus I don't believe is in China currently. No. I don't believe that they launched it.
No.
I'm wondering if they would recut this show or sell the license to like a Chinese
most likely
service.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I'm very interested in how all that works. But I imagine that you're right that because like you were saying, he looks like the Donnie Yen Monkey King, and I do think that could be intentional because that's what Chinese audiences would be used to.
Mm-hmm.
They might not necessarily want like a big American style CG version of the Monkey King. They might just want like a guy in makeup.
Yeah, I was just trying to look up. He has
movie,
one of the.
Kingdom.
Oh, sorry, Connor.
Like Jet Li from that movie Forbidden Kingdom.
Well, he's done Monkey King a couple times, if I'm not mistaken. But
there's been like a
whole subplot about like the Sun Wukong, the Monkey King.
Yeah, he's such a major mythological character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was also looking because China also gets weird with like creators, but like I don't see maybe because this guy is Chinese American, so all of his stuff is more about America. But like the writer of the comic, multiple Eisner Award winners. I didn't even know he wrote Superman Smashes the Klan, which came out like 2 years ago. He wrote for Shang-Chi, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Like he's a big comic book writer.
Okay.
I think he won the Eisner for American-born Chinese, as well as Superman Smashes the Klan, and he was nominated for. Let's see, he won for Eternal Smile, and he got nominated for like another one. Like he's just like a huge comic book writer.
Good
but
for
it's
him.
like it is also just cool to see like Disney throwing some money behind something that, as far as there's like one sympathetic white character in the show in the first episode, that's like not bad. Maybe
that's the thing. They don't even have to have a white character, honestly. Like,
well, that's
I don't need as a barrier of entry. Like,
might be more like conceptually, it's like it is such a plot device of the show that it is interesting because like the guy wrote the book in 06 about his childhood, so that's more like in the 80s. So like to retranslate that for a 2023 is interesting how they're retranslating it.
That's true. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
So like the way that they're dealing with like the kind of low-key racism, I don't know how you would call it, but like those more subtle things,
the microaggressions.
Yeah, and like even characters like watch us like, and then like they're watching the video of like Kei Kwan's character, and then they see him, like they see the main character, and she's like, "Oh, you should put that away. Like it's kind of racist." It's like it's not racist. It's like I'm just like it's nostalgia. Like it's cool, right? And like looks at him, and he's like, "Okay, now like 2 white people are asking me, is this good or bad thing?" And I'm a 10th grader. Like I'm a sophomore in high school, and this is day 1 of school.
Yep.
And then there's like fucking crazy kung fu wire fights. Like, I don't know. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool like to just do something like that IP wise.
Right.
But there's no better time to diversify and reach a giant fucking audience with this, which exists.
No, woke, Lou.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Woke.
I don't get like why someone hasn't done this with like Hispanic characters yet, because there's such a bigger population in the US.
Yeah,
that's on the money side, capitalist side of that.
No, I mean it's I am shocked too, because it feels like it's a huge audience that not even the comic movies have tapped into at all. Other than
the only one that's coming is Blue Beetle.
Exactly.
And I think that movie's going to smash.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
You know what I think I caught bits of? I haven't watched the whole thing, so I can't comment too much, but like something else is doing this is similar but a different demographic. Reservation Dogs. Anybody seen that?
I've heard only amazing things about
my
that.
god.
Yeah, the show's great.
It's on my list to get to.
Yeah, shit ass. Yeah, it's great.
I've only seen a few bits of it. That mostly clips from I can't remember the warrior's name. The ghost warrior keeps visiting and was like, "Hey, bro!" Like,
oh yeah, that guy's great.
You definitely see it more in comedies, and FX has like always been ahead of because like they had Atlanta, and they've had a bunch of. It's where Fox was actually doing interesting stuff for a very long time before Disney.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like cool to see. And obviously they timed everything because it's AAPI month and stuff. That's why I'm on this podcast, right?
Yeah. That's the only reason, Lou. It's not because we think you're great. No, that couldn't possibly be.
Which actually, that's something.
Lou, you made a joke about like some kind of spinal disease once that made me laugh so hard, like it made my head hurt, and that's the only thing I can remember. Like, everyone's like, what's Lou do? Lou made a really offensive joke once. It really stuck out in my fucking head.
I actually, that's something we never talked about was the Blue Beetle trailer. Because we were going to talk about it on the one episode, but then we decided to have discussion about the end of the world. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we can talk about like all the trailer stuff that's been coming.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's a bunch of stuff.
I think Blue Beetle is fantastic.
I do want to slip one thing in real quick that I've been watching. I only recently finished the show that's been airing on Amazon, Swarm.
I've heard that's interesting. I've heard that's interesting. I kept meaning to check it out, though. I never got around to it.
I was very into it. It's not like, oh my god, it's the best thing I've ever seen, but it's very well done. It's okay. There's a certain level of quality or baseline that you would expect from Donald Glover, and it's present in the show. The real, like, I guess not surprise, but like the revelation is the lead of the show, Dominique Fishback, who is excellent. She is electric. She has this incredible range. She can go from like being this very sweet, charming character to like Jack Nicholson levels of unhinged in a very short amount of time. There are moments in the show where she's just absolutely terrifying. And I really love the tone and the vibe of it. It has a lot of original music because do we all know, or does anybody want like the summary, like the log line of what the show is? Like,
sure.
Or
yeah, I'm already aware, but yeah, I don't know if anybody else knows about it.
It's like it's about a young woman. I believe she starts off in Texas because she kind of like goes on the run and is all over the place, and LA, she hits the whole country. But she's like a huge she's a member of the Hive online, which is a pop star fan group on Twitter.
It's like Beyonce's Hive of people.
Yeah. So there is a Beyonce's. Yeah, she's
Beehive, I think.
Yeah, I think it's
Beehive. They just call it the Hive, and then she runs the Swarm account, and she's like a prominent person on the Twitter account, and she's obsessed with Nadja is the name of their Beyonce stand-in, and the Beyonce stand-in music is great, which I shouldn't be surprised by because it's Donald Glover, who puts a lot of effort into that in every show that he's done, or in every piece of art that he's done, and to the point where it's the thing of you have to believe that this person really loves this music, and it's good enough to sell that. And then the show is like her slowly losing her mind as the people in her life start to fall away. A person that's very important to her suddenly passes away, and it's just like her on kind of a murder spree across the United States.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and it gets
not at all where I thought going to go weird. With that.
No, the transition in the pilot episode and the way that it goes from like just her like living her life with her roommate who she cares about deeply to full-blown murder is extremely compelling. And it just and the show just has it's doing a lot of weird, interesting things. Every episode feels unique and like its own little short film. There's one episode I do want to shout out, which has a lot of like indie horror girls in it, and Billie Eilish as like a cult leader. And she's great. She also kills it. And there are moments where the chemistry between the two of them is like extremely weird and off-putting. It's just, yeah, very good show. I highly recommend it. And if it sounds like I spoiled a bunch of it, I didn't spoil anything. There are so many things going on in each individual episode that I could describe an entire episode and give nothing away.
Is the season over?
The first season is over. I don't know if there is a second season. It does have a little bit of like a, well, I need a second season now ending, but it's not egregious, I would say.
I was just looking at the episode count. That's like 6 or 7 episodes. Like that's amazing.
It's worth checking out. Definitely. Eric, I would say
I started watching Yellow Jackets, but I did start watching Yellow Jackets, but I fell asleep in 20 minutes, not because I was bored, because I was really fucking tired. So next time we record, I'll have a report on that.
I will.
Immediately, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I'm completely up to date on Yellow Jackets, and I will say, I really hope this show doesn't go past, like, let's say 4 or 5 seasons, because it feels, and I don't want to go too deep into this, I just want to say it feels like they're spinning too many plates, and it's starting to show.
Honestly, just in the first, like, 10 minutes of the first episode, I'm like, this can't go past 1 season. Like, this
the first season is great.
It was already like the craziest shit I've ever seen in like the first 5 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
No, the second season is good, but you can see some of the seams.
Okay,
I'm very worried about a lost situation.
I think Legion was like 1, 2, 3. Legion was done. Mm-hmm. That story cannot go past that. So I think there are some shows like with a premise so heady that like you can't take this very far.
Well, it's with Yellow Jackets. It's not even that it's the premise that you can't go too far. It's that jumping, and this isn't spoiling anything. It jumps back and forth between some of the survivors now and then all of them when they were teenagers. And so you've got the drama of slow leak reveal of what happened when they were in the wilderness. And then you have all of the bullshit happening to each of these individual actresses who deserve their own screen time. So it begins to be too much.
Narratives that are fighting for the same space.
Yeah, pretty much. But they're also connected to each other. So
I'm worried about some of those spinning off in like too many directions. Again, no specifics, but like I was a little bit listless with some of the Shauna stuff in the second season. Like it's like the moment she got back with the main group, it was like, oh, the show's it's got new life to it. And every time we go back to her solo arc,
outside stuff, yep.
It's like, okay, can we speed it up? I do like the cop. That's all I'm gonna say.
No more. That's why I was trying to cut you off. Yep. Nope. No more.
Yeah, I understand.
That is the most successful spoiler snipe I've ever seen from this group.
I wasn't even gonna say anymore. I was just gonna say that and just.
It's just when you specifically said like Shauna's story, I had my alerts on. I was like, okay.
The big red button.
No, but I'm also worried. The other like lesser concern is inelegant retconning, which we're touching up against, and it could go bad real quick. That's all I'm gonna say. Eric, I think you know what I mean, but it could go really bad real quick, depending on what they're doing.
To transition away from this, I would like to talk about a thing I discovered this week that I briefly mentioned before this. So, in a wildly unexpected move, the DUME modding community kind of exploded in this very weird way. Someone whose identity has not been revealed, which is kind of like leading to the effect this has had on me. An account named Veg on the Doom 2 modding forums, by the way. People just making maps for Doom 2. It's 30 years of this shit. Someone who has been on the Doom forums for like 20 years, almost as long as Hunter's been alive, just drops this thing quietly with a fucking Google Drive saying, here you go. This is called My House. It's a Doom 2 mod. And I kind of initially misinterpreted what this was. I thought it was like a weird kind of like I said to Eric, like a creepypasta kind of thing, where it was like, oh, it's a cursed mod. No, this is like, as a game narrative, and I don't want to be hyperbolic, this is like as good as some of the best gaming narratives I've ever seen. Because the Doom mod itself is a plot device. The story about this mod is that it is a project picked up, these are all fictional people, project picked up by a guy named Steven, who got it from a floppy disk from a recently departed friend who's his childhood friend, and he wanted to work on it as a way to deal with his grief over his friend. And then he loses control over it, and it starts to become this bucket of pain, essentially, where he's just dumping all of these really, like, intrusive thoughts and all his pain. And then when you get to the end of it, like, it has these wild-ass journal entries detailing this guy's mental state, and some of it hit me so fucking hard I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Basically, the way the mod works is that we were talking about how it's kind of inspired by House of Leaves. It takes place in this house, the titular My House, and
I mean, I would almost say it's fan fiction. Like I go one step further and say, like it's equivalent to if one of us sat down and wrote House of Leaves fiction and put it on AO3.
You guys would know more about that than I would, but like just the way from where it starts with the My House, with the House of Leaves stuff, to where it goes was where I started to really consider this to like a very well done piece of gaming fiction. So it starts out in this very House of Leaves things. From what you guys have described to me kind of situation, it's a weird ass house. From what you're playing it as, it's a weird ass house. The layout keeps changing. There's different permutations of the house that are bigger and smaller, different textures, blah blah blah. But like, the house is just a conduit to get to other places. And at the point in this mod, you start to like listen to the journal entries in this guy, and I thought they were going to be like lame. But when you read them through, whoever wrote this must have been dealing with something similar in their life, because all of this comes off as so oppressively real sometimes. And at some point, he's talking about how he's shaving and his reflection winked back at him and it freaked him out, so he threw his razor at the mirror and didn't know what to make of it. And that actually ties into the game itself, because if you approach one of the mirrors in this house, you can go through it, and there's a mirror version of the entire house. Everything on the other side of that map is mirrored in this whole thing. I forgot to mention that this is an exquisitely designed Doom map, to the point where like it does things you shouldn't be able to do in Doom with tools that no one use, I guess. But basically, this whole thing culminates in. So you have to do a bunch of things, like get a bunch of items to like open all these fucking weird ass mysterious doors you would never think to open. And after you do all this stuff, I think the last door you open is a hole in the fence that you go through. And when you go through this fence, it takes you to a long fucking highway that's just dark. And then you find a car, and the car is playing that most mysterious song on the internet. That's where I found this song. It's crash against a tree, which then leads to a clearing, which leads to a gas station that's completely empty, which then leads you to a campsite, which then has a tree that has a door on it. If you open the door, you go to a beach, and you walk around this beach, and you suddenly realize that it's not a real beach. It's a movie set with a clacker and a stereo, and none of the effects are real. And that ties into a dream entry where this guy basically says, I had a dream that I got to this beach. He's talking about the beach you're talking about. But then he goes into this whole bit about how, like, what if this is it? What if this is eternity? Am I going to sit here with just nothing but my thoughts for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, a million years? Is this what eternity is? How am I supposed to stay sane in the afterlife, essentially? And he ends it with saying, like, what if the other me that winked back at me in the mirror is on the real beach, knowing that life is finite and he has nothing to worry about, there is no afterlife, and that happiness must be fought for. And that stuck with me for fucking days.
I mean, I gotta say, with everything you're saying, it strikes me as nothing but a creepypasta, just one that maybe didn't go the whole creepy route, but I don't know. Like, I've seen enough of this stuff online, like games, and I mean, hell, this sounds like somebody took a lot of ideas from Inscription, and is like adding this like real world narrative inside of a video game, and that's where I'm just kind of like, I don't know. That's why I'm just kind of like whatever about this. I mean, it's fascinating that they were doing things that you normally shouldn't be able to do by using whatever that F mod or F DUME mod, whatever it was. But yeah, I just nothing about this really catches for me.
It has for me, and I'm not doing it justice because I'm going off of memory. Like the detailed version of what he said is very wordy and very compelling to me. And then just the idea that like now that's the bad ending. That's basically what you get is that you're just at this the fake beach. That's it. You're there for eternity. The good ending is that if you turn around and leave the fake beach, essentially you have to get to the real one. But what the game does is it throws an insurmountable amount of Doom enemies at you, more than I've ever seen anywhere, and makes you fight through them to get to the real beach, which is the theme of the game is happiness must be fought for, I guess is what it all comes down to. And then there's all these different there's information about these two characters, like maybe they were in love, maybe they weren't, maybe they're more than just childhood friends, all kinds of stuff like that. I think it's just really well fucking done when you sit and I didn't experience it, but I've had it explained to me in such explicit detail that I've basically experienced it. I don't know. I find it super interesting, super compelling, very well done, and very sincere. And since this guy also hasn't come out and said who he was, there's no name, there's no person attached to this so far except an account. It leaves the sincerity of it for me because I don't know. I think most people will be out looking for attention for it.
Yeah, but there's also that weird side of the internet that gets into like the mysterious story or the mysterious this, creepypastas, all that. And that's what this feels like, is that the reason why they're not doing it is to let the legend of this build more. So when it's at a fever pitch, that would be the time to be like, and behold, it's me.
If that's the objective, then job well done, because this is
exactly.
This has been talked about. Like the Doom forums are a lot. This video I'm talking about has been viewed 5 million times.
Yeah.
The other one is 4.5. It's insane. Like I couldn't believe how much it fucking blew up in just a month. Over a week, because it came out a month ago. It's been really blowing up over a week.
I'll give you this. If I was more of if like Dune was deeply important to me, I would have found a lot of this just far more interesting. But I did find like the thing that occurred to me is like, okay, that from far as I know, as somebody who can't code, all of that seems like a lot of work. Like every aspect of this seems like a lot of effort.
It feels like years.
I was gonna say that sounds like years of work.
Years.
Yes, even if you're starting from a mod that is very popular, like it does feel like a lot. And again, like I said, it's fanfic, but like it's not unimpressive fanfic. When I say fanfic, like I'm saying that with the full understanding that like there are impressive works of fanfic that are so impressive that people get book deals. They end up getting actual work. Like
50 Shades of Grey.
I would be very shocked to find that this veg person isn't already currently in the industry. That would be just utterly shocking to me. That he's not like, I don't know, a coder at like Sony Santa Monica who built this in his spare time.
For like a decade.
Like just like, oh, this is what I do on the weekends. He read House of Leaves whenever it came out. He was like, oh, I really like this, and I'm already doing like Doom mods, but like he's like, oh, I do like little tiny ones, little things, very basic stuff. He's like, yeah, let's do like a House of Leaves crossover thing, and like let's make it really big and expansive. And again, like on that level, just from a very basic understanding of how much work that would be, it's impressive on that front. But I didn't engage with it nearly as much as you seem to have. But I understand it also. I understand if enough of these keywords were really important, how it could hit you very hard. Because it is interesting.
It's interesting is like games give kind of the only real medium close to a book that's not a book. And like the way you can tell a narrative story in a more user-paced manner. Or like audience-paced manner. I think people doing more of this as an art or like an artistic form is really interesting concept to do these kind of more abstract, strange,
Yeah,
like
and one of the things about it is like
interpretations.
it's the act of using specifically Doom 2 to tell this kind of story by using Doom 2 as the actual like plot device. Which the thing that these connects these two people is like, no, I was trying to finish a mod for a friend of mine because he died, and now I'm losing myself in it because I'm not processing this grief correctly. And I think honestly, it for obvious reasons, stories about grief in the past few years have really gotten to me and really gotten interest in me because now I've been through the process of like to the point where like I want to know how other people deal with this. So I think that's also why I've sunk into this so badly. And just the polar opposites of seeing the fake beach ending versus the real beach ending. I'm like, okay, it's you're giving me like the idea of like, no, you can be totally lost in this and just never find your way out of it, or you can make peace with it essentially. I think that's why I'm kind of just in love with it. And also, it's fucking Doom. And why would you put this in Doom?
Well,
no, that is yeah.
Going with the House of Leaves, at least as much as they directly referenced that, or it was the game was inspired, or the whatever this thing was inspired by it. Part of for me what makes the book House of Leaves so disquieting is the parts of the story where it's talking about the Navidson report, which is the name of the videotape about the dude exploring the area of his house that shouldn't exist. It's all being done via VHS. So in your mind, you're already imagining this grainy and slightly nostalgic thing based on how old you are. So for somebody to put out a Doom mod that does that is totally preying on that, and not in a bad way, but it's just they're like, all right, this is how I'm going to get this feel across with something that's old.
I will say it now. The Navidson record is talking about the hallway, is it not?
Well, that's the first video. It's like the 4.5 minute hallway is what he calls it.
So in this, they call it the Navidson hallway, but it's not what, because it's from what I heard described, it's just a never ending hallway. Is that what it is?
Well, no, it in the book, like at first they think it's never ending, but when they do a serious exploration, they end up going down and down and down and down. Yeah, like it's that's like I said in the chat, like for anyone who might be listening to this and for anyone who I'm on the show with, if you haven't read the book, you really should, but I will say that it was the first book in a very long time that actually gave me nightmares.
And
it's
all you're going to sell me on it. So they redo the hallway in this, but in this, like, and this is again goes to the level of work and just the commitment to this. Like, they do the hallway in this, but the hallway in this is it's a deathly silent, and now like it's Doom. The sound effects are already limited. This is there's nothing. There's not even your footsteps. A deathly silent, almost pitch black, Ganchuan labyrinthian dungeon of hallways and corridors and doors and pits and wide open spaces with seemingly no roofs. And it's I watched this dude do a 6.5 minute run of this, and he edited it down for time, and like the whole time I was just breathless. Like it was making me so tense, like because I couldn't believe. I'm like, how did you like? This is where I was like, the technical wizardry of this blew my mind. I was like, how the fuck did you even commit to making this?
Well,
lost in it.
My theory is that when you're actually making the map, like you can still take a God world view, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I think,
and remember, the thing I'd posted said something about like him using teleportation and things like that in ways that people weren't used to seeing. So I think if he could edit out the sound of the teleporters, you're walking in a black hallway, you're not going to see any of the effects that would indicate that you're teleported somewhere. So you would actually give yourself so much more space to be able to do that.
Yeah, and like, but also the other thing that I learned is that this file is only 66 megabytes. However, that is 4 times the size of both Doom 1 and 2 complete editions. 4 times it's 4 times the size of both those games combined.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of space. So like, in addition to the portals, and like how much of it is portals and how much of it is like just sheer size.
It's a lot of space for those games, not probably in a modern sense for.
So I do think the more we talk about it, the Doom aspect of it makes sense. To your point earlier, Eric, like it feels like a lateral move. Like it's like okay, it's only one. It's just the next thing over from VHS tapes. And in a way, it's more relatable than VHS tapes currently are. But it still feels like it's part of the same milieu. And then to the point of like the existing modding community, I don't think you would see somebody do this with, say, Minecraft, which would maintain some of the aesthetics. But in Minecraft, like even though it's meant to look low poly, I think Minecraft stuff is way too high def.
Well, and the nostalgia factor ties into the story, which makes sense.
And there's also, they do things to keep the uncanny feeling that something is off. They do stuff like that. Like if you finish the My House map quickly, it just shoots you to episode 2 of Doom 2 called the Underhalls. When you beat Underhalls, it throws you back to the house. The other thing it does is that when you do your second run of the house, the weapon frame rate and the pixels are just slightly better.
Yeah.
For no reason. Just to make you feel like something is off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of the one creepypasta, Ben Drowned aspects of this. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Title, but I don't think I've ever read it.
It's the haunted legend, Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I know this one. It's coming back to me after you say that. Like it's because No,
yeah, and I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1, but there are just aspects of it that sound.
The mod isn't haunted. Like they don't in the journal entries, they never imply the mod is haunted. It more implies that this guy did this and then like lost sleep and then like doesn't remember making parts of the map and isn't sure what parts he made and what parts his friend made and just starts to lose his fucking mind.
Yeah, it sounds like it's
all he's doing to deal with it.
It's a guy having a nervous breakdown over his grief.
Yes, and he puts it all into Doom 2.
Yeah, man.
What's funny is when you've been talking about it, what popped in my head was what was that shitty movie we talked about a while ago? That was like kind of retro horror.
That was what?
Like a retro horror.
Skinamarink?
Yeah, and that like Skinamarink was trying to do something with that kind of nostalgia style.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like sometimes like again, I think like that art style is interesting as a new art form and like actually not just the games themselves because they're becoming like a bigger like art like platform, but like the modding kind of side of it is an interesting way. And obviously it takes way more work than just writing a creepypasta or fanfic.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah,
but I mean with Doom and like games similar to that, mostly like original first-person shooters, they've become just a modern language for a lot of people. So using Doom is like a hey, this is retro, or at least this is supposed to be inspired by this time period, or this is the feel I'm trying to get across. And when you do things that seem normally impossible in something like that, it adds to that weird disquiet.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the thing that I got to give credit to the guy on the video, because if I just had no understanding of how extensive Doom modding can be, I would have been like, okay, well that's interesting. But when he
explains that you can't have a room over a room, and then you're looking at a room over a room,
and that was that was interesting. Again, if I was way more into Doom, I think I would have watched all 2 hours of that video that you shared. But I did bounce off of parts of it where I was like, all right, you can speed through some because I was like, okay, well, I saw the whole, it will put you into a regular Doom level and then bait and switch you. I was like, okay, well that's obviously what's going to happen here. But it did, I can see why this would be exciting if you were super into Doom. If it was like Eric said, if it was a language for you, I can see why this would be thrilling. And I'm glad to see somebody like giving love to this book and like you get 2 out of the 10 people who download that mod to go and read that book, well, great.
I want to fucking read it. I haven't even played the mod. I just want someone play it. I want to read it now.
The crazy thing with that book was my dad just sent that to me randomly. He didn't email me anything.
Well,
I got a package in the mail and a note saying like, I think you'll like this.
How much? Wow. Like even in ways that like it's not intended, like this mod just popped up, you just got the book in the mail. I'm kind of shocked nobody's taken a swing at adapting that.
Flanagan talked about it.
I looked up, it's
what?
It has like a bunch of different
ears perked up.
Yeah, it has a bunch of different styles to it that I don't know that you could translate.
The book?
Yeah, for when I looked up like the Wikipedia, it's like
and you showed me stuff, like the way it's written is like part of the experience, and like
it is.
Like and even the Power Pack video shows you like you'll come across a page and like there's a square piece of text missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I'm holding mine right now. I'll send a picture.
Sorry to interrupt real quick. I just wanted to mention too, with the thing that really fucked me up when I first read that book, well, not really fucked me up, but something that did, was they allude to other versions of this book, like higher quality hardcovers that I don't think ever existed.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyways.
No, on the like adapting movie front, I think like multimedia is the better way to go. Like the Doom thing, like it got me thinking. It would be very interesting if, like, the people who do Hunt a Killer or something, like, really did like an expanded tie-in with this. Because I think if you were getting like VHS tapes sent to you, which required to buy a VHS player, unless you're me or Joe Lascola. But like that would be an interesting way to do it, because I don't know if a movie.
What you could also do is just send like links to like old looking websites.
Yeah,
you could. Yeah. I do think it would be an interesting way if a studio was really willing to commit and like put a lot of work into this to sort of bring back the feeling of the Blair Witch times in the way that I've heard people describe, like getting obsessed with reading the website.
Yep. That's also the advent of ARGs and the internet and movies kind of holding hands. So that had as much to do with it as it was the quality of the stuff that was up there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, just if somebody was willing to put the effort in, I think that's why I've only heard Flanagan talk about it. If I had to guess why I heard him talk about it, it was most likely King Cast, which is
probably saying it would be an impossible movie to make.
Yes, and I think the question was, are there other non-Stephen King things you would like to adapt? He's like, well, House of Leaves, obviously, but that would be impossible. I just sent a picture for the people not in the audience so they can see.
They can get fucked.
But it's a lot of stuff like that. It's like, and I like that it has notations in the bottom, and the notations are part of the story, and it just, I've only been able to crack it open every once in a while and stick with it for a little while. My attention span is terrible.
Oh yeah,
this
is the page.
So,
this is the page Power Pack shows, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. It's but I don't regret buying it and having not gotten into it, because it's just an interesting thing to have on your table, and people open up and they're like, "What the hell is this?
What the fuck is this?"
Real quick, I was actually thinking, I think the best way to adapt that book would actually be a game, but have the company that did, what is it? Connor, I think you had played it. It's the one that has multiple members of a family.
Layers of Fear.
No, not Layers of Fear. No, that's Bloober Team. No.
What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yes, the team that made What Remains of Edith Finch. If they adapted House of Leaves into a game, I think they could do it because they could do all the narratives justice.
Because that's a point and click, right?
I think it's a walking sim.
But it's a first person, yeah.
But it's like, okay, What Remains of Edith Finch, I'm going to say it right now, is like the most devastating game narrative I've ever seen in my fucking life. And it's compelling as all hell because, like...
It is, yeah.
I don't know.
I think it is on some...
Like, hey, you want to hear a fucked up story about a whole family that dies horribly? Sit down.
Yeah. Because, that would be the perfect way to tell the story of... I can't remember the character's name. I think it's Johnny Truant. I think that's his name. But yeah, his story being like the tattoo parlor like apprentice and the weird shit going on with him watching a Navison tape or one of the tapes that he got from the old man, and then going into the Navison stuff where he's like having a day-to-day life with his family, and then the next one is him going through that hallway, and just I think it could be really cool and really interesting if it was a video game, because a movie, it would have to be like 4 hours long for it to work.
Yeah.
And no one's going to spend that much money.
No. Well, I mean, on the Edith Finch front, that game was produced by Anna Perina, and Megan Ellison likes to just throw money down the toilet.
Yes, she does.
And she uses her money better than her father does. Not to go back into politics, but funding terrible people.
If you have not played Edith Finch, I highly recommend you do.
Yeah. If we had billionaires that would throw money at arts,
that would be good. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
It's almost like Bill Gates and all that was like a psyop or something to
it was a tax write-off
to make the only good one, good in quotes, seem even worse. So yeah.
All this stuff is a tax write-off and PR.
Also, he is the king of Washington, I can say, as one of his subjects. As I am bound to his land holding.
One last thing, since we seem to kind of be spiraling here, I just beat Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and that is possibly my favorite new Star Wars thing in a long time. Like, it is a phenomenal story. Like,
that's the first one, right?
No, it's the second one.
I can't wait to play it. I really like the first one.
Yeah, the second one is even better, and it it's the story is so good. It's so goddamn good. I mean, the gameplay is great too, but I want to tell people about all the stuff that happens in it, but I don't want to spoil any of the big events because they're so well done.
Like, Eric, I wanted to scream at you about things about God of War Ragnarok because you played God of War, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because I will not spoil the excellence that is that game's story.
Well, anyone who's familiar with Respawn and how good Titanfall 2 is, there are parts of Jedi Survivor that are as good, if not better, than some of the best parts of Titanfall 2. Either story-wise or just the scenery going on during action scenes. It's so goddamn good. I'm actually thinking about New Game Plusing it.
It just talked about that way, and I don't know anything about Titanfall 2.
Oh, Connor, you need to get that game. It's like $5 on a regular basis. Like,
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's costing nothing right now.
Just blind buy it. I promise you will love the single player storyline. It's on my
That's what I keep getting told, and I keep forgetting about it because like it's just nowhere, and it only gets talked about like this, where someone compares something to it, and I'm like, guys, Titanfall 2 is that good?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely phenomenal. But I don't have... go ahead.
Ragnarok might be my favorite interpretation of this specific collection of Norse myths in a long time. They do some really fucking interesting shit, and then like the fact that they folded Kratos into it so flawlessly, seemingly, makes it all the more interesting because like I'm like, he should be an outlier. He should not work so well in the story, but like turns out like no, he's like a fulcrum. Like he's how the story moves. Like Ragnarok is essentially happening because of him and Baldur. Like he gets folded into this story so well, and he dances with characters like Odin and Thor and Heimdall so fucking flawlessly. It's amazing.
After beating God of War, I had no worries that the second game would be bad.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm waiting for it to come out on deck, although I'm realizing I'm going to have to buy PS5 if I want to play Spider-Man 2, which...
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Spider-Man 2 is going to break it for me.
Miles Morales, that game made me cry.
Like
both games made me tear up.
Like the dam has slowly been having pressure built against it as more and more games come out. I'm like, oh, I don't need the PS5 yet. I don't need it yet. And
Yeah.
it's just,
Arlen,
and Spider-Man 2.
So my head might explode.
Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine are what are going to put me over the top. I need.
Let's just real quick, and then we can probably get out of here. But like the Spider-Man 2 footage that I saw, from this showcase is legitimately
amazing.
Some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like I'm like, is this real?
It looks so good.
Fucking movie.
Yeah,
they got me, and like, it feels really dumb to say, but like, yeah, Miles and Peter just being alive and in the same universe at the same time. Nobody thought of this. Nobody came to this conclusion before now. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
I can't.
I wonder, like, for movies and stuff, if the rights are really wonky with Miles.
I think they are.
I bet that's what it is. That the rights are just because they have all of the Spider-Man characters.
I mean, it could be as simple as people in Sony think people will be confused if you have Miles and Peter at the same time.
Well, there was that email that came out, like in one of the Sony emails, that someone basically said Spider-Man is great and white.
I mean, yes, but even to like going further back, the guy who has been in charge of Sony for some time, he's also the guy who was like, I don't want the X-Men to fight the Sentinels ever. Like he's that dude he's like, I hate robots. Robots are bad. Robots make movies fail. It's like, where did this arbitrary rule come from?
Well, I might be misremembering, but I thought I had read something that had talked a little bit about the deal with Marvel and Fox when Fox still owned the X-Men, that one of the parts of the contract about that was any new characters created in the comics were free game for the movies. And that's why they didn't create all that many new characters for a while. They were just giving other mutants powers. So I'm wondering if it's similar with
when they ended all the mutant powers for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I don't know how it would connect with Spider-Man, but I mean, I could see something similar going on in the deal where it makes it harder for Marvel to get any type of foothold onto Miles.
Well, it makes sense why Spider-Verse exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sony obviously has some control over him.
So. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I think he's just kit and caboodle with Spider-Man.
I think Spider-Woman is like a weird one for them.
Yeah, it is.
She's not really a spin-off of him.
No.
She might be a Wanda.
Yeah, because I think it's depending on which version of Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because she was heavily associated with the Avengers, right?
But that was much later.
Yeah.
Okay. There was some team then that I know she was like. That's why I'm assuming the Wanda and Pietro similarity, because
I think
they were retconned to be mutants. And it
has more to do with Spider-Woman. It has more to do with the origins of her powers and the fact that she's not really anything to do with Spider-Man's like whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, thank you. Like she just got named Spider-Woman. Like there is another Spider-Woman that has powers.
There's like 5 of them, but the
one that's in
the original one in like the burgundy and yellow. Yeah, she's the one that's like weird. The other ones are not so much because the second one's like Julie Carpenter, the redhead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's become Madam Web, which I think she is in the second Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, and in the Madam Web movie that's now filming.
That thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great, just like Kraven.
Yeah.
I can't. You want to wrap?
Yeah, probably a good call.
I think we should. Yeah.
I got
Does anyone have plugs?
Other than, hey, don't be stupid with your credit cards. Like, don't.
Follow my Instagram if you want to see my rats. That's basically what my page is now. Just my rats. Like,
yeah, and to sort of bolster off of what Eric said, if your credit card suddenly tells you that they're going to start doing a monthly or yearly fee,
get off that credit card as quickly as possible.
Yes, and I guess you're SOL in terms of finding a new one, because they couldn't, like, I don't know, give you a recommendation or anything. You just have to apply to a bunch of them and hope that one of them says yes. Not at all my situation at the moment. No, not as I'm about to go on a massive vacation. I'm furious if you can't tell. No plugs. LHP is going strong. We've kind of settled into like a bi-weekly schedule. So
nice.
I look forward to an episode about Charlie Kaufman's Schenectady, New York, which is a very unusual film.
I saw that once and I still can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it's a lot. If you know Charlie Kaufman stuff, it's yeah.
It's a lot even for him, I think.
Yes, a little unwieldy, but you can hear more about that and our discussion on that. I believe next Sunday is when we'll be recording it very soon. And then we've done a bunch of stuff lately. Of course, we did 1981 movie Possession recently. We did the Wazowski siblings Bound, which is a great film. If you haven't seen Bound from 1996, go check that out. And
you'll understand why everybody wore black leather in the Matrix.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's interesting. One last thing, to be able to track time based on pre-Bond being done on LHP and post-Bond being done on LHP. Because that was the albatross. That was the albatross over the show. Just, we're still going with Bond. We're still. It sounded more and more desperate as time went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't let Barbara Broccoli down.
Oh God.
My sweet. Did anybody else have plugs? Lou, did you have a plug?
No. I finished reading all of the Frank Herbert Dune books. They're awesome and wild.
Yes.
So when you first started talking about Doom, I was like, got excited. I was like, oh no, he said Doom.
Doom. Yeah.
I'll be honest
about the God Emperor and the Sandworms. And the
it's very hard for me sometimes. There are so many people in the world who pronounce both words completely the same, and just frequently. And what are we talking about here?
I can't wait for Dune.
So yeah,
what? Dune?
Like, we're on an alien planet and there's monsters. Okay, I'm still confused.
Yes, and there's a desert. I need more context.
Is the Rock there? Is he there?
There's worms. I hope that narrowed it down.
No, there's a wrestler though. I can't remember his name.
Oh God.
There's a Samoan
man. You also just forced the movie Ghost of Mars into my head.
No, we're done. Good night, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Next time we'll talk about what if the Rock was in